And welcome back to me channel. I'm laughing because after 400 videos, I actually just screwed up that introduction so bad, I had to just start over. But it's like after 400 videos, you can't say that same shit. Welcome back to my channel, unless you're new here. And then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And yes, we are going to talk about Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Now, this is the cute little Shout Factory, Scream Factory steelbook of Winnie the Pooh. It's very cool. It's very pretty. I like it. I like the back. It doesn't beat my favorite steelbook. My favorite steelbook, believe it or not, is Rob Zombie's 31. It'll be in my next update. I triple dipped because of that. I already had it on DVD, then I upgraded to Blu-ray, and then when that damn steelbook came out, I just love that steelbook, and it is my favorite steelbook. And I like the movie, but this is the steelbook for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Yes. Poor Laura. Oh, poor Laura. That was painful. Of course, it wasn't painful for long. Now, Winnie the Pooh was released in 2023 after a sort of viral thing. We'll talk about that at the end. But yes, this is the steelbook. I really like it. The back is really cool looking. I know what all of those mean. I have a heavily carpeted floor because I am very, very clumsy, so that did not dent it. Just in case you were wondering. So, it was released in 2023. It was directed by Rhys Frake-Waterfield and written by Rhys Frake-Waterfield, and of course based on A. Milne's original Winnie the Pooh. It stars Nikolai Leon. Yum. That's some honey right there. That is a honey. You know what I mean? Could cover that honey with honey. It was like Maria Taylor and Natasha Rose Mills. So it doesn't have a lot of guys in it, but the one that they do have is a honey. It's very fitting, isn't it, to put him in a Winnie the Pooh movie. I think he's only did 4 movies, so I'm going to get the other 2, but all have been horror. It's like an alien predator type B movie, and another one, sort of a slasher like movie. But yeah, I might have to get them because I'm that way. So it was released in 2023, like I said. Those are the people that stars in it, and yes, it opens with this really cute little anime rendering of the original story of Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin, and it tells the story about how they met and loved each other, and those were his friends as a child and all that. But then it turns sort of dark. It turns sort of dark when he leaves them to go to college and to become a doctor. So he leaves them to go to college and become a doctor. And when they were gone, they really didn't know what to do. Cold winters came. He had been feeding them and helping them and being their friend and all of the stuff that we know about Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin. And they starved. They starved to the point where they ate Eeyore. They ate him. They ate their friend. And this made them so upset that they grew to hate Christopher Robin so bad, and humans in general so badly, that they vowed to never speak human again, and to feed off humans, kill humans. So they're like a little cannibal Poohs now. And the stars of this one, of course, are Piglet and Pooh. You have to remember that Winnie the Pooh, part of Winnie the Pooh, went into public domain, but not all of Winnie the Pooh. However, Tigger, he goes into public domain. The character of Tigger, he goes into public domain in 2024, so he will be in the sequel to this, which we will talk about. So, we now flash forward to 5 years later, and we have Christopher Robin. He's returning to 100 Acre Wood with his, I guess, wife, Mary, and he had been telling her about these little magical friends of his. They're like half human, half animal, and how they spent their childhood together. She doesn't really believe him, but she's trying to support him. So he gets her out there, and they do ends up, and now I will say, fucking cinematography in this movie, the shots of the woods are so Little Red Riding Hood, you know, I mean, breathtaking, which is amazing when I tell you some of the stuff about this movie at the end. But they do manage to find, and he locates the little cabin that he had spent his childhood with Winnie the Pooh, and all of them. And they are very scared by the stuff that they find. Blood, guts, bones, stuff like that. They hear someone coming and they ended up hiding, and they stay hidden until Pooh goes to sleep. And then they sneak out, where Piglet catches Mary and kills her really ugly. And Christopher is just blown away. These are his childhood friends. You know, he doesn't understand that. And they finally do catch him after some cool chase scenes. They catch him, and we don't know what happened to him. We assume that they ate him or something. We don't know at the time. We are then introduced to Maria. Yes, we are introduced to Maria at her psychiatrist's session, where she is advised that maybe she and her friends, maybe with some friends, that she could take a weekend to try to relax and deal with some of her PTSD from a recent assault, which we'll find out a little more about. Maria, my notes are overlapping. We see Maria and then leave with her friends, and they stop at like this dilapidated gas station kind of place, and he tells them that, you know, there's another one up the road. So they go, and they eventually find this little bed and breakfast cabin that is close to the 100 Acre Wood, and that is where her and her friends are going to, you know, hang out. Jess, Alice, Zoe, Kara, Tina, and Charlene. Now, Tina hasn't arrived yet. She's on the way, and she got lost. She tried to call them to get directions, and it doesn't work. She took a wrong turn or something, and she ended up like in Pooh property. And Pooh gets after her and ends up disgustingly killing her. This is a very gory movie. He kills her and grinds her up in a meat grinder for like sausage. It's not nice. So Maria ends up that night telling the story of her trauma. She was the victim of a stalker, months-long stalker, who she thought that things had calmed down for a short period of time. It did not. He ended up actually breaking into her house and assaulting her while she was asleep. He was caught, put in the nick, so, but she still has to deal with the trauma of being stalked and assaulted. So, now the rest of the group knows. We then see Pooh's encampment again, and we find out that Chris is not dead. Christopher Robin is not dead. He is chained up, Texas Chainsaw style, and he has been being tortured since those events that we had seen where Mary was killed. He has been being tortured. Pooh likes to cover him in blood and he likes to bring skeletal remains of the latest victim and sit it in front of him and making him witness it. And he's got a shower rigged up to where he can put blood and guts and grind them up and have the blood come on Christopher like a shower. He's a crazy bear. he's not all there. But so we see that he's been chained up all this time. We see him beg and plead, and he's constantly trying to remind him, Pooh that is, of their childhoods and the goodness, and he's constantly like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have left you. He's really I've heard people say that his character is very wimpy and very, but you have to understand, this was your friends that you grew up, and I don't have a problem with the way that that's what I'm saying, is I don't have a problem with his interpretation of this character at all. It's Christopher Robin, for God's sakes. Okay? It's not Rambo. It's Christopher Robin. You expect him, you don't, he does exactly what Christopher Robin would be doing, is what I'm saying. So, we then see, and that was rough, we see, Pooh have flashbacks to their childhood, and then gets very, very angry, and he's got this weird horsewhip kind of thing that he made out of what looks like hair or horsetails or something. And he beats Christopher with it like a prisoner on a slave galley. It's very difficult. The way he tortures him and beats him, it's like, oh my God. So, this is Winnie the Pooh, for God's sakes, right? So you're pretty shocked. One of the girls, I think it's Laura, yeah. Laura's taking selfies in the jacuzzi at this place, and he hears the music, because it's kind of close to the 100-acre wood, so while he's out perusing his woods, he hears the music, and now he knows about these girls. So that was a pretty cool scene with her in the jacuzzi. I didn't really care about her in the jacuzzi, but I'm just, you know what I'm saying. She's taking selfies of herself, and what's interesting is that she's looking back and swiping the selfies no, that shit. Nah. Ooh, that one's pretty good. But when she's looking at one of the pictures, she's like, what the fuck is that? Because she zooms in, however y'all do that with your phones. She zooms in, and there's Pooh in the background. And she just took the selfie, right? So she's like, what the fuck? It's like, yeah, that was kind of a cool intro. You know what I mean? For her to see it in the selfie that she just took, and that's how she knew that would, I could see that being some cool scenes in horror movies, how you discover someone's behind you that way. But he ends up grabbing her, and Pooh's got automobiles from people that Pooh can drive. And he's they grab Laura and they pull her out into the road, and she's like not wearing anything, and they've got her like hogtied, which is kind of ironic for Piglet. But Piglet has her hogtied, and Pooh is behind the wheel of what looks like some like classic Mustang or something, getting all 55 ready, you know. And I thought that they were going to like run her over, but like straight, you know, just like straight run her over. And I'm like, oh, that would be painful, you know. But instead, it was like another plan, and that was he revs and revs, which is what made me think he was going to run her over. But then he started like creeping, and he creeps up to her and then stops, and he like backs up and he like realigns. And then I figured out what they were doing, and that was, no, he's just trying to get her head, not the rest of her, because I guess, you know, I guess they don't like brains maybe, but they're not going to waste all that meat. So they just wanted to like, so they crush her head. He like slowly crushes her head. That was that little scene from the still book. That right there. See her hogtied? She's hogtied right there, and that's Pooh in the car. And you think he's going to run her over, but actually he just wants to creep up and melon her head, which was, I looked that way. My view is right here. I looked that way or that way, but I did not look that way. Because that was fucking nasty. I don't like seeing heads smushed like that. It makes you not able to eat watermelon, if you know what I'm saying. It's like you can't watch this movie and then have someone bring you in a watermelon. You'd just be like, no, not right now, thank you. It reminds me of something. So the other girls, they walk out, Maria and Jess, they walk out and they find Laura's body. And they see Pooh and they see Piglet. And so they run back in the house and they're like freaking out. First of all, you would probably be like, what the fuck is that? I would assume they were masks. That's what I would assume. They're fucking realistic looking masks. But I would assume they were masks. Doesn't really matter though, does it? There's a couple of whatevers trying to kill your ass, so. They're looking through the place for something. Maria, she does have a gun. She does manages to get the gun. Her and Jess are like looking, and then the other two girls, Alice. And what was the other girl's name? Zoe? Was there a Zoe in this movie? Is there a Zoe, anyone? Yes, there is a Zoe. So, I think it's Alice and Zoe that they end up managing to trap in the pool room. Not that kind of pool. That kind of pool. Swimming pool room. And they knock Alice out, and Pooh gets into the water, and like, or Piglet with his sledgehammer. And he ends up, that was a cool kill scene when he busted her skull open. Then Pooh and Piglet, they take off with Alice over their shoulder, and Maria and Jess see them, but they didn't see them. So they start following them, and they follow them back to the encampment. Now, when they get back to the encampment, they find where they've tied Alice up. Let me catch up. Alice tied up, yes. I just watched this last night for the first time, so it's kind of still fresh in my brain, which is making me get ahead of my notes. So, we see Alice tied up, and Pooh's got a thing about that hand of his. Boy likes to slap. Okay? That's what I think was like interesting about it, is that he doesn't like beat with a fist. He like slaps the shit out of you. I mean, that boy likes... Isn't Pooh a boy? Yeah. But Pooh loves to slap. And he's just like slapping that bitch. Like, you know, bam, bam, bam. And I'm like, okay, he's got this slapping thing. I think there's a whole fetish community out there that would really be interested in meeting Mr. Pooh. But, so... But he's slapping the shit out of her, and Jess and Maria find her. They manage to untie her, and, you know, we must leave. Let's get the fuck out of here. They hear a scream, though, like a female scream. And they go looking to help. It's like, well, we can't leave this person here to be done to by these creatures, whatever the fuck they are. So they're like, we'll go and help her. And I'm like, not after what I just been through. I'm like, I gotta go. But no. Oh no, they didn't know he was there. Because I was just going to say, me as a viewer of this movie, I know who I'd be hunting for to rescue, and it wouldn't be some bitch screaming somewhere. So they hear this scream, and they go looking to help her, and that's when they end up finding Christopher Robin. They find him tied up. They manage to untie him. They're freaked out. He's freaked out. They manage to untie him, and he starts, telling them to go help that girl. I'll be fine. Now, I got a little suspicious at that moment, because I'm like, you've been tortured by your pet bear for a very long time, and you're just telling them to go on, you'll be fine? I started having little thoughts in my head, like, are you going to join with Pooh? Y'all going to make up and you're going to become a killer too? That was kind of what was going through my head. It quickly dissipated though, but that was a momentary thought of a path that I could see this movie going down. So they go to find this girl, and they find her. And she tells them about Pooh and Piglet, that they're half human, half animal, mutants. They end up untying her, and she flips out, and she gets, like Alice's gun, and goes after them and faces off with Piglet. Only there's no bullets, which is a really uncool thing to happen to you when you're faced off with a half pig, half human. There's no bullets. And then Pooh ends up behind her, gets her down on the ground, and pours honey all over her face, and then Piglet eats it off. And I'm not talking about just the honey. I'm talking about the face as well. So yes, they end up, she's of course really dead. Covered with the honey, eats the face off. Okay. So then we end up seeing Pooh chasing Jessica and Maria. Alice, though, she comes out of nowhere and actually gets one up on Piglet, right? So she actually gets Piglet tied up like Christopher Robin was tied up with the chains and shit. And she's beating his fucking ass. So you've got Pooh, chasing Jess and Maria. And then you've got Alice, who is beating the fuck out of Piglet, who is tied up. And while the chase is going on, Alice has decided to end this little fun and games. So she takes, 2 or 3 really good whacks with his sledgehammer and, kills him. Or at least, there'll be a sequel. I doubt he's dead, but he seemed to be dead. But the point is that Pooh heard him squealing with his little piggy squeal. So he heard him squealing, and that made him cut off the chase, right? Because he's got to go help his little friend. So he goes back, and catches Alice and then impels her through the face. Like, through the face. Onto a big tree. That was a good kill. There's trash walking around my house. I hear them. But, so, Jesus, it threw me completely off. I've got to move. So, Pooh hears it, runs back, kills Alice. Now, Pooh is after Jess and Maria again. They actually managed to get back out onto the road where these 4 hillbillies stop. And there's a really cheesy, sort of like Tombstone, Doc Holliday kind of standoff, where these 4 hillbillies are like, you know, it's probably the only time that there was like questionable acting, you know, but it was still cute. It was stupid. So they attack him with various weapons, these 4 hillbillies, while Jess and Maria get in the car, and he ends up beating the shit out of him, and you get to see one of those slaps again where he like slaps one of those guys, like, I mean, it just like crushes in half of his face, just this pow. I mean, Pooh and them slaps, you know what I'm saying? So that was pretty cool. He ends up killing all 4 of them dickwads. The girls run over Pooh, but he's like in the bed of the truck. So they're running down the road. He ends up, you know, I guess they decide to do what turned out to be a big mistake. And that is, maybe they've seen it in movies before, because I certainly have. And that is that when you're in a situation like that and there's a creature on your car, what you're going to do? You're going to brake check. You're going to hard brake check. So she did a really hard brake check. And yes, it flew Pooh over there. But at the same time, it also busted up her face and busted up that other girl's face. It's like y'all forgot to put seatbelts on before you did a hard brake check. You know what I mean? So Pooh ends up running back because they're both like knocked delirious. He pulls Jess out of the car and decapitates her, beheads her, and like holds the head up in front of the car or truck with Maria. Throws her head on there, and she has to use the windshield brake to get the head. That was pretty funny and gross. So Pooh is coming, and he's going to get Maria. Jessica's dead. So right when he gets to the front of the car, it's Christopher Robin to the rescue, because he comes with one of their other automobiles. And he like plows right into Pooh. So you have these 2 cars, boom, and Pooh's in the middle. So he gets out, he runs to the car, he grabs Maria, and they manage to get out and start crawling away. And then I'll be damned if Pooh doesn't just like get loose and like pushes the 2 cars apart and comes after him. And Christopher is still begging. He manages to grab, because I mean, both of them are nearly beat to death anyway. Come on, give them a break, people. This isn't Superman versus Batman. These are like humans versus some kind of mutant. Christopher Robin's been tortured for fucking what, a year or something? And this girl's been beat half to death. I mean, come on. Don't expect them to pull a Sigourney Weaver, you know, in a situation like this. So he gets a hold of Jess, and Chris is like begging, please be a good boy. Please be good again. The good still live inside you. Please remember, I've apologized. I'll tell you what, if you won't kill her, I will willingly stay here with y'all for the rest of my life. So he tries to offer a deal. You know, it's like, I will stay here. I promise I will stay here. with you for the rest of my life, I promise. And then Pooh, the only time he says anything in this movie, he says, "You left." And then he cuts her throat and throws her at Christopher. Christopher's like crying. She's like crying. It takes her a minute to die, and she dies on his, she dies on his, in his arms, and then Pooh starts walking towards them, and Christopher gets up. He runs a little bit, turns around and looks, but Pooh doesn't come after him. Instead, Pooh just hunches down over Maria and starts like brutally stabbing her over and over and over with his gigantic butcher knife. And then Christopher runs and it fades to black. And that's Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Now, a little bit of trivia from watching the special features. The 70% of this movie was filmed when it went viral. So how this movie came about, which, I mean, you have to give them credit. This movie has got a fucking Shout Factory steelbook. So let me tell you how this happened. They had this idea. They made this movie. They made 70% of this movie was filmed. The budget was £20,000. That's about $14,000. Right? Yeah. Wait, am I doing it backwards? Anyway, £20,000. Go to Google and convert. You'll see what I'm saying. Then he went to the International Movie Database page and he put a few pictures up of this movie that was coming. This little, because the guy who directs this movie has directed a whole bunch of these really cheesy, low budget movies, which actually I want to get a few of now, because a couple of them looked really interesting for the cheesy side. So they went and they had put up a few pictures, and America freaked out for it. Not Britain, but America. And they didn't even know that it had taken place, right? The director said something like he got a phone call in the middle of the night while he was sleeping, and he woke up and answered the phone, and it was people going, "Oh my God, you're everywhere." And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And like one of the actresses that played Laura, she said that the way she found out about it, because it went viral, like it was picked up by Rolling Stone, it was picked up by Variety. It's like everybody was talking about this Winnie the Pooh horror movie in America. And remember, this is a British movie, so these guys are in Britain, and they had no idea that just overnight it went kaboom, right? So when that guy woke up, was woken up in the middle of the night about, oh my God, Winnie the Pooh is everywhere. Your Winnie the Pooh is everywhere. And that girl that played Laura, she's like, she woke up the next morning. When she woke up, and all of a sudden she had like 4,000 new followers on Instagram, and she was like, what the fuck? What happened? What? What happened? And then she was like scrolling, and she was like seeing Winnie the Pooh, and she thought to herself, oh wow, somebody's doing a Winnie the Pooh thing. Oh, we're doing one of those. And then it hit her, and she's like, yeah, we're doing one of those. And then she was like, wait a second. That's our poster. That's our... Oh my God. And she had like 4,000 followers in one night when this all stuff started hitting the papers, the entertainment papers. So when this happened, they were just thrilled. Like everybody was just like, what the fuck? This allowed them to go and get a little extra money. Now, you have to remember, 70% of this movie was filmed in 7 days on 20,000 pounds. When this occurred, this viral thing, they managed to go and get, 30,000 more pounds, because they contacted the investors and was like, have you looked at America with the Winnie the Pooh thing? Could we have a little bit more money? And the investors was like, yeah, I think so. So they ended up getting 5 more shooting days, and they had $30,000 extra to do some more effects. So they were able to film some more stuff, like the redneck scene, and they changed the ending because they knew that it was going to be like a little phenomenon. And so in the original ending, he was killed. Christopher Robin was killed at the beginning, which is why it fools you at the beginning, and you think that Christopher Robin was killed, and then yet he's actually being tortured and stuff. Okay, the torture and the redneck and the ending was due to the viral thing that happened and the extra money they got, where they was then able to spend 5 more days shooting all of this additional paths and footage to this movie. So, in total, this movie, which I guess the director and them, they can actually hold a Shout Factory, Scream Factory steelbook, was a movie that they just made in 12 days for $50,000. Or 50,000 pounds. Which I believe is like $42,000. $41,000. I know I'm right. I lived there, for God's sakes. So, yeah, I'm right. The dollar is worth more than the pound. So 50,000 pounds equals about $63,178. So the dollar is less valuable than the pound. So I did have it backwards. $100 is worth 78 pounds. Okay. So this movie was made in 12 days for $63,000. And it's got a fucking steelbook from Shout Factory. So they're very happy because now they get to make a sequel. And because Tigger is going into public domain, there'll be more of the characters in it. He did say that he wanted to make it a little darker, go a little more darker, a little more horror, which, I don't know, this was pretty fucking horror. But he wants it a little more horror tone and a little more darker. And I'm like, oh, that'll be cool. This was good. So I actually like this movie a lot. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. There were occasional blurbs in the acting. This is a really super low budget movie. I'm glad that it got the attention that it did. I think that it fits right in with my love of the Nail Gun Massacre, Gutter Balls, Terra Firma, some trauma stuff, Girlfriend from Hell. Yeah. I really like the cheesy aspect of it, and it's very good. It's very gory. I loved, the cast was great. I loved Christopher Robin. I loved him. He's a honey. So, yeah. That is Winnie the Pooh. Blood and Honey. It gets a thumbs up approval from me. I'm glad to have the steelbook. It's like I said, just like a 7.3, 7.5, but it's good. It's really good. I really enjoyed it and had a fun time with it. And yeah, I will see you in the next. Love you, miss you. Bye-bye. And always remember and never forget, you are a very, very special person, even if you do not have Winnie the Pooh chasing your ass through the woods to eat you because Christopher Robin made him upset. Bye-bye.